warming huts, start thinking about lighting a fire, and then we thought that fire will be the elementary action of getting warm, and we tried to combine it into the structure of the house, of the hut, in a way that it's also referred to the temporality of the building and its dynamic. And that's how we came up with the structure, some sort of metal frame that the wood will stuck into it, and then through time and through the skater's behavior or lighting the fire, the appearance of the hut will change.
Well, that's what I like about it as well. As the weather gets warmer, it gets smaller.
Yeah.
The conceptual idea was a structure that changes from sheltered and closed hut to an open structure, even possible to give shade during summer. So
Some sort of pergola.
yeah.
Except it'll have sank to the bottom of the river.
Sorry?
It'll have sank to the bottom of the river.
No,
Yeah.
I think they'll pull it out before.
Well, we can put it like
This was based on assumptions because we're really not familiar with this kind of weather, this kind of life under such extreme conditions. And we googled a lot.
What temperature is it in Tel Aviv at the moment?
right now it's about 20 degrees above, and it's the middle of winter.
That's really nice. There's only a 35-degree difference today. That's pretty good.
Yeah. You should ask for relocation.
Yeah, no. Personally, I think this is the one that has jumped off the pages when I saw the designs for me. I really like the cage with the timber stacking down because it'll be erratic. If somebody pulls a log out of one side, it'll change the shape of it because the timber rolls down inside the cage.
We really hope that people will use it, because sometimes when people get to, I don't know, some sort of installation or pavilion, they can be hesitate, should they do it, if it's okay.
I mean, we saw people, although it's not completely different people yesterday, just taking wood and putting it in the fire pit to keep themselves warm. So I think it will be useful.
It will. The Winnipeggers are well used to sitting around an open fire in their backyards in the winter. So they'll know what to do with the logs.
And with two others, but we're just playing around with the contrast. We knew Winnipeg and the river would give like a real horizontal kind of feel, especially looking at the YouTube video of someone skating down the long ice trail, and so we wanted to do something that might be iconic and beautiful and just raise it up. And we didn't know how much hay costs, so we thought, if hay can be structural and it's relatively cheap, we could make a tower that would be 60 feet tall.
And how much is hay?
These are top bales and bottom bales, so they're kind of damaged. Oh, actually, these are straw bales. Hay bales would be more expensive, but I think these might be about $30. But then that's not including transportation and whatnot. And these are the bales that are they can't really use because they got wet and they're a little maybe moldy or something like that. But they're huge.
And how many of them is there?
How many? There's, I think, at least around 70, but that's 70 for 6 levels. At the top there, it's a circle of 9, but when you get down to the 3rd level and on down, it's a little bit more because we're trying to extend 2 spirals that kind of come together to make the entry. So yeah, but they're 1,000 pounds each at least. Some of them have moisture, and so they can go up to 1,500 pounds. So it's pretty crazy. Yeah.
It's a pretty cool structure. I do like the 2 opposing entranceways with the spiral. It does, like, it's remarkably warm in here, and I use the word relatively for Winnipeg. But it does a pretty good job of cutting out the breeze.
Oh yes, we agree, and we wanted. When the temperature gets warmer, you can actually smell the straw, and so we used to play in with straw and everything, and so it could be a reminiscence of your childhood, or I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna remember this for the rest of my life. So yeah.
The longest week of my life in Winnipeg, Manitoba.
No, but it's I mean, even though it's so cold, like the people are so warm and everything. So it's wonderful to be here. We're so fortunate. Yeah.
Yeah, what I liked about the structure originally when I saw the renderings was, as we discussed off camera, was that there was a very strong Lord of the Rings vibe coming off the tower, especially because it was originally intended to be higher.
Yes, yes. I mean, yeah, we wish it was 60. That was being optimistic. When we, at one phase it was going to be 40, but then, you know, when we got here, it was, you know, it came down to this. I mean, just for the safety issue.
This is the University of Manitoba's entry in this year's Warming Huts competition. As you can see, it's a steel structure with vaguely Gothic overtones. It's quite reminiscent of some of the more ornate vaultings in some of the cathedrals in Europe, and it's covered in fabric. Over this, they're eventually going to spray water, and it's going to become a hardened shell. So it's actually going to become an ice vault. The whole structure is designed to be reused every year, and at the moment it's sitting down on what is the frozen harbour here at the Forks.
I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is my shelter. It's called Under the Covers. The basic idea behind it is that you imagine snow as being this fabric that just it blankets everything. I love snow, which it's kind of cool that it's snowing right now. I love the idea that snow sort of unifies all these disparate elements. And so the idea of this was to actually take the flat plane of snow, cut a line in it, and then push up like you would a set of blankets or covers, tucking you in underneath and keeping you at least psychologically warm, maybe not physically, because once the winds come out of a different direction, you're screwed. In terms of the construction is two systems. There's the decking system, which is all just 2x6s built on site. The entire rib system, it's essentially an egg crate construction, so it's a bunch of panels in the X and Y axis that all lock together. We're not using any fasteners on the actual structure itself. The structure is all just locked together in such a way that it distributes the weight evenly, pushes it off towards the side of the decking itself. Eventually there will be plywood cladding that actually, excuse me, that clads the entire side of this. Those pieces are all planar pieces as well. So I mean, for me this became a really big exercise in how to generate curvilinear geometries from rectilinear pieces. Everything's built essentially in flat pack construction with a CNC mill. I sent toolpath drawings off about 2 weeks ago to the fabricators and showed up on site with a van, they showed up on site with a van full of all these parts.
That's awesome. I'm looking at it here now, and the structure in itself is very cool. Are you putting any sort of membranes or anything like that over it, or do you foresee it being used in the summer or anything? Like, for me, I'm thinking it could also work as a sunshade, or.
And actually, it very well could. There's not going to be any membrane on the outside. The outside is all 3/4 inch plywood. The plywood is all actually, each plywood panel is essentially anchored to these ribs with blocks. So the edge of the rib, because you've got constantly changing geometries, angle geometries, you can't anchor it to the edge of the rib. So we're putting blocking in on the sides that'll actually attach to it. That creates really small gaps in between each panel. And our thought is for winter, we're actually going to gasket it, actually sort of like a chinking technique that you would use in log cabin construction, and actually chink it to make it completely watertight. So I mean, once it's all together, in theory, it could be out there the whole time. I mean, it could be out there indefinitely. I have a feeling that because they're going to be placing it literally on the river's edge, on the ice's edge, that they're probably going to move it once things start to thaw a bit.
Well, they'll definitely, the river levels shift up about 20 feet up here once the once the spring comes in. So
and everyone's really worried about this spring.
Yeah. So I think the structure's fantastic. Like you can look at it here, and it's not complete, and it looks solid.
Yeah.
You know, that's the great thing about it. It's not one of these structures that needs the final piece in just to, and then all of a sudden it's rigid. This looks indestructible already. It's like,
That's well, and thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, that was part of the idea. I mean, I know, like, especially for any students that are in school right now, I mean, this is such a sort of standard technique that you learn in school, this idea of the egg crate construction. I'd been doing them for a while. I've taught this means of fabrication. This is the first time I've ever built at full scale. I've had Ron, who you met earlier. Ron was here for a bit today and a bit on Monday and Tuesday. But yesterday is when I started doing the ribs, and I started doing it myself. And it was the greatest feeling in the entire world to actually lock these things together. Just as you said, yesterday I just had this side in and this side, and I actually put a plank down and sat on it. There wasn't the tiniest little bit of flex in it. It's bulletproof.
being down on the river, it might need to be.
yeah. No, I think it's going to have to be. Yeah, I think that's I think that might have actually been in the brief. So.